You shouldn't meet your thoughts for the first time at bedtime. This is one of the biggest roadblock to sleep. Let me explain. You know that time where you're lying in bed, you're all alone with your thoughts and you're trying to sleep? It's a time where you might remember something during the day where you messed up. Or it's a time where an idea pops in your head and you get all excited and you get more awake as a result. Let's call that time between you getting to bed and you actually asleep X, just like in algebra. It is during X where you don't know what ideas or thoughts would pop up in your mind, and as a result, you lie in bed in frustration and in despair. How do you deal with X so that you could sleep? Could books on sleep hold the answers? Common solutions to the problem. I have read several books on sleep, and most of them focus on the physical aspect, like avoid blue light, exercise during the day, cool the room, lower your body temperature, and avoid caffeine and sugar. These steps are about the physical stuff and they help, but they're not enough. What people often miss is that we have to handle the psychological stuff as well. Why they fail. Matthew Walker, in his book Why We Sleep, explains why. The two most common triggers of chronic insomnia are psychological. One, emotional concerns or worry, and two, emotional distress or anxiety. In this fast-paced, information-overloaded modern world, one of the few times that we stop our persistent informational consumption and inwardly reflect is when our heads hit the pillow. There is no worse time to consciously do this. Little wonder that sleep becomes nearly impossible to initiate or maintain when the spinning cogs of our emotional minds start churning, anxiously worrying about things we did today, things that we forgot to do, and things we must face in the coming days, and even those far in the future. That explains the cause of the problem. So the solution is simple, right? We just need to handle our thoughts and feelings, our worries and anxieties properly so that we can sleep. But it's not as easy as it sounds, and that's why we avoid it. It's easier to bring up our phone, distract ourselves, look at funny and exciting stuff, meanwhile ignoring something real inside of us. Herman Hesse writes about this tendency to ignore what's real inside of us in his book, Damien. Alas, I now know only too well that there is nothing in the world more hateful to a person than walking the path that leads to himself. You know that path that leads to yourself? It's solitude. You know that time between when you lie down in bed and when you're actually asleep? That's also solitude. In the book, Lead Yourself First, the authors define solitude as this. Solitude is what's happening in your mind, not the environment around you. Solitude is a state where your mind is free from input from other minds. And we can't escape solitude at the end of the day. There's always that time where you lie in bed, you close your eyes, you're still awake, and that time when you're actually asleep. That is the time where you're forced to actually spend time with your thoughts. And this is the biggest roadblock for most of us. The real solution to the problem. So here's the most helpful tip to sleep later tonight. Number one, spread solitude throughout the day. So if X is solitude, you can actually spread it during the day instead of accumulating all the mental processing before bedtime. It's like taking a bite on an elephant chunk by chunk, or it's like paying something in installments instead of straight cash. After all, what we need is energy and time to process things, and we can only have a limited amount of that each day. And also, if solitude is the state where your mind is free from input from other minds, this means that you can have solitude anywhere, like in coffee shops, or at home, or at work, or at school, as long as other minds are not interfering with your thoughts. So the action point is this: schedule 5 minutes of solitude multiple times throughout the day. During solitude time, ask yourself the following questions. What do I feel about this event? What do I think about that? What should I do about this? Recognize your emotions using emotion typology. You can check my video on this to learn more. During solitude time, you can also plan for the future, like what should I eat, or what are my tasks for tomorrow, or I have an upcoming presentation in 2 days, so let me think about that now. So in this way, we're dealing with our worries or future-related anxieties. It is during times of solitude where we realize most things. For example, you might realize that you have been too harsh on somebody during the day and you want to apologize. But you realize this too late in the day, and so you're not able to take action. It's hard to call somebody at 12 a.m. when you're lying in bed and this realization pops up. So the next question is this: how do you know that you're processing things? And the answer to this is using language. So for example, you can talk through it by yourself or with a friend. In my experience, I realize something new when I tell my story to a friend. You can also talk with it to a therapist or write your thoughts in a journal. Using language in any shape or form signals the progression of thought, and therefore it signals that we are processing things. Here's a funny example of deliberation during the day instead of during the night when you're about to sleep.
Gusto ko talaga siya. Gusto ko talaga siya. Kaso hindi ko sigurado yung nararamdaman niya sa akin eh. Pucha, pero feeling ko may gusto rin siya sa akin. Alam ko na gagawin ko. Tangina, alam ko na ang gagawin ko. Sa susunod, hindi na ako kakain sa karinderya na yon. Sa iba na lang.
Another example is LeBron James when asked about how long he'll play in the NBA.
Thoughts does that give you about your end game, and how many more years will we see you play?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. Something I sit down with my family, my wife, and my support group, and kind of just talk through it and see what happens, and then just have a conversation with myself on how long I want to continue to play. We'll see.
He says that he'll have a conversation with himself. Let's proceed to number 2, and that is to be aware of the things that take away your solitude. There are so many ways where we are being innocently distracted from our thoughts during the day. The common suspects of this is social media, the news, video games, Netflix, or even listening to music. There's nothing wrong with all of these. It's that if we're using this to distract ourselves from our thoughts, we are going to pay the price later at night. Cal Newport, in his book Digital Minimalism, calls this as solitude deprivation. So, after the iPod was invented, people could now listen to music all day, and this was not possible before. And this got worse with the invention of the iPhone, where you take a quick glance at your phone and it takes away all the remaining slivers of solitude that you have. So here's what solitude deprivation means. So solitude deprivation is a state in which you spend close to zero time alone with your own thoughts and free from input from other minds. So this doesn't mean that you should never listen to music during the day. I still do. But I now consciously stop listening to music when I need to be alone with my thoughts and free my mind from input from other minds. Number 3 is to figure out how to find satisfaction during the day. I found out that if I procrastinate with my work during the day, it will haunt me later at night. I will be filled with guilt, worry, and dissatisfaction. And in order to deal with this, I ask myself the day before or as soon as I wake up, how will I find satisfaction today? What task do I need to make progress on or finish so that I'd be fulfilled when I lay down in bed later tonight? I ask this because we need mental peace to relax and to sleep. And peace is not something that you get once and for all. It's something that we need to strive to gain every day. So there's a quote from the book Narcissus and Goldmund that illustrates this. On earth, there's only that peace which we must conquer over and over again from day to day in ever fresh assaults and victories. Here's a clip of Jeff Bezos also explaining about what's causing us stress.
The stress primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over. If I find that some particular thing is causing me to have stress, that's a warning flag for me. What it means is there's something that I haven't completely identified, perhaps in my conscious mind, that is bothering me, and I haven't yet taken any action on it. I find as soon as I identify it and make the first phone call or send off the first email message or whatever it is that we're going to do to start to address that situation, even if it's not solved, the mere fact that we're addressing it dramatically reduces any stress that might come from it. So stress comes from ignoring things that you shouldn't be ignoring.
So asking this question will guide your actions during the day so that at the end of the day, you'd have peace which helps you sleep at night. So in conclusion, it is what you do during the day that matters more when you sleep than whatever bedtime routine you might have. During the day, feel your emotions, tackle your issues, and finish your work so that later at night, you'd feel at peace, you'd feel secured, you'd feel satisfied.
I should get some sleep.